The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Chapter 22. The Gospel of Gold. All travelers that came through Ecruteak City's south entrance passed beneath a single, massive red archway. It was reminiscent of a torii gate, and though it did not function officially as one, visitors seemed to realize that they were entering sacred territory. Ecruteak, like Azalea Town, contained a mix of modern and traditional Eastern design, but there was a more solemn air to this city. It wasn't until Gold left, then returned, that he realized how nostalgic it felt to be back. It was like returning to the house of one's youth after moving to a new place. His heart ached. "Right then," Morty said, looking westward. "I should make a brief stop at my house and then check in at the gym. What about you guys?" "That sounds perfect," said Jinichi wistfully. "I'd love to go home and see my parents, too." "I do, too," sighed Marina. "But if I step inside my house, I don't know that I'll have the will to leave again. I may need you guys to keep me accountable." Gold nodded, appreciating her wisdom. "This isn't where my journey ends," he affirmed. "It's just a visit at home. I won't even set foot past the door." A slight undercurrent of homesickness resonated in the pit of his stomach, and he trembled slightly with anticipation. "But I owe it to my dad to let him know I'm okay. He's gotta be frantic with worry." "Okay, so we meet back in, say, a half hour," said Jinichi. "Where are we meeting?" "Where all visiting trainers usually stop first," replied Gold. "The Pokemon Center." Gold paused to collect himself as he stood alone at his doorstep, his stick leaning on the porch railing. If anyone had seen him on the short walk over, they had not recognized him or made any sort of fuss. It would be a complete surprise when his father saw him standing on the porch. What would he say? "Dad?" Gold lifted his hand and rapped the door with his knuckles. "It's me. I'm home." 30 seconds passed without any reply. Gold knocked again and waited with growing anticipation, but the suspicion stirred in his mind that nobody was home. He tried the door, and to his astonishment, found it unlocked. An alarm triggered in his mind, warning him that something was dangerously off. Dad never leaves the house without locking the door. It's possible that he was in too much of a hurry to bother when he found out I was in Azalea Town, but I doubt it. A faint smell of gas wafted from the dark kitchen. Against his better judgment, Gold proceeded nervously through the door and reached automatically for the light switch on the wall. He turned it with a faint click, but nothing happened. The room remained dim. The only light came from the single window by the kitchen table, and only through the filter of the closed curtains. "They're moving," Gold observed, as his anxious heart beat faster. "There's a breeze. The window's been opened. Did somebody break in?" He had just reached the window and pulled the curtain aside when he heard the voice. "Ekans! Rap!" A large serpentine creature flashed out from under the table. Before Gold could even twitch from panic, the snake Pokemon was upon him, constricting his upper body in its scaly coils. Gold cried out with fear, but in that exact moment, the kitchen door slammed shut behind him, drowning the noise. Standing in front of it, his arms still extended, was a man he recognized, dressed in the same black uniform as the last time they had crossed paths. "Proton!" Gold gasped. The rocket's face lit up with a grimace of terrible triumph.
"Indeed!" he crowed. "And I'm not alone! Tom!"
Gold watched, aghast, as a second man in rocket garb crawled out from under the table, on his hands and knees. His face was masked and unreadable, but he held a large butcher knife in his right hand. Their eyes met, and both of them gazed at each other with shocked expressions. Here was the very same rocket grunt that had fallen in Slowpoke Well, whose life Gold had saved.
"My reputation is on the line,"
growled Proton, pointing a gloved finger at Tom.
"You bungled my tail-cutting operation."
His finger shifted to Gold.
"And he spoiled my recruitment of that league trainer. That's 2 strikes against me already."
Proton bared his teeth at Tom.
"Your second strike was failing to guard the well. This is it for both of us. The boys arrived. Do the deed!"
Tom's fingers visibly clutched his knife tighter, but Gold could see the end of it quivering. His breathing was erratic, yet still he hesitated.
"Tom!"
implored Gold, his heartbeat drumming wildly.
"Where's my dad? Is he okay?"
The rocket grunt lowered his knife slightly and seemed to find his voice. It was tense and high-pitched.
Your dad wasn't around when we got here,"
he wheezed.
"Don't talk to the target, you moron!"
Proton snapped.
"You're making this harder for yourself. This is why I put things in perspective for you just now." "This is messed up, man,"
Tom gasped, his whole body practically vibrating.
"Look at him! He's just a kid who wants his dad." "No, don't look at him," commanded Proton. "Look at me! Tom, eyes here!"
Gold watched the masked grunt's head turn slowly to his superior.
"It's all or nothing,"
Proton said pointedly, tightening his fist.
"Apollo himself told me, and his sister's in good with the League. They want this done, and they're ready to give us a totally clean slate when we do it. But if we don't, it'll be us instead."
Gold blanched, and his insides froze. The League is working with Team Rocket? Proton's expression was wolfish.
"Him or us, Tom? Is that enough incentive for you?"
Tom glanced back and forth between Gold and Proton. Twice he raised his knife when his focus was on his commander, but when he looked at Gold properly, bound and helpless, he deflated again.
"I can't do it,"
he whimpered. "You've done it a dozen times already," said Proton smoothly, almost kindly. "It's just like cutting a slowpoke's tail. That's all this is."
"I can't,"
Tom choked again.
"You will!"
Proton roared suddenly, rising to his full height and taking a step forward. He hefted a Pokeball in his hand menacingly.
"Or so help me, I'll do it! And then you'll know why I am known as the cruelest in Team Rocket. Still no? Strike 3, Tom! The boy may be able to survive poison, but I know you can't!"
And then Tom flung the knife. It whistled through the air, past Gold's left ear, and buried itself in the door with a thud. Proton bellowed like a wounded animal, for the knife had passed horizontally through his arm in the process. It did not sever the limb from his body, but it effectively pinned him to the door. The Pokeball slipped from his disabled hand and bounced on the floor. In a burst of light, Coughing emerged, the same Pokemon that Proton had used to try suffocating Gold. This seemed to double Tom's panic.
"Down, Ekans!"
he ordered his snake Pokemon, reaching out. Before Gold knew what was happening, the serpent that bound him dropped loosely to the floor, and Tom grasped him by the shoulder and thigh. Then he was lifted, and with a strained grunt from Tom, launched straight through the open window.
Traitor!
Screamed Proton, in fury and pain.
Our lives were bound in that boy! I won't let you! I'll send you both to hell ahead of me!
Gold rolled over painfully in the grass and turned to look up at the side of his house. Tom's body came diving out the window, just as Proton rumbled,
Huffing! Self-destruct!
The explosion was devastating. It was not half as terrible as the one from Steelix in Union Cave, but even with his eyes closed and ears covered, Gold felt the house shudder and the wave of heat wash over him. His ears rang from the noise of the blast, and fragments of glass showered his skin. The smell of sulfur and burnt hair hung pungent in the air.